Thank you everyone for attending this training from Africa Fire Mission. AFM volunteers are happy to provide this training to you. And we have 3 volunteers with us today. We have Shandy Seastone helping with moderation, and Lucas, who is one of our instructors from Germany. And Jeff Hawley is our primary instructor today from Colorado. You're encouraged to share what you've learned with your colleagues. This training is provided free of charge. However, we do not provide a certificate of attendance. The training will be recorded, and when possible, the recordings will be available on AFM's YouTube channel for future viewing. Since this is a 1-hour training, we will start with the training itself, and we want to encourage you to introduce yourself. And if you have others attending with you, let us know that as well by using the chat function in Zoom. At the end of the training, Jose, who is AFM's fire safety advocate, will host a tea time, and you can ask further questions about the training topic or discuss other trainings or other topics pertinent to the fire service. We do have participants from multiple countries with us today, so we do want to be aware of that as we ask questions to identify ourselves. And please make sure to mute your microphones if you are not speaking. That will just help with the sound in the background and help all the other participants. Now Jose is going to get us started with a word of encouragement.
Super. Thank you so much, Nancy. Welcome so much, everyone, and also in particular, Jeff Halley, and also Shandy in the background. Welcome, everybody. So today, we're going to get a word of encouragement from our normal book. That is the 90 Days of Encouragement, and it is courtesy of the Christian Fellowship of Firefighters. Yeah. So today I'm going to read on day 26 about crew integrity, written by Andrew Stans, battalion chief with a large metro department in NC and FCF international member. Here it goes. Just as body through one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. That reading comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12 from the NIV version. Firefighters understand the importance of working together. The efficiency of fire crew is riding short, suffers dramatically with the loss of each member. The most recent NIST manpower study verifies this. In life, as in firefighting, it is a relief to know that someone is there to help you bear the load. It gives one great comfort and confidence when facing insurmountable circumstance to have someone by the side to walk with them through the fire. God designed us for relationship, and this is reiterated in all aspects of our life. We are not meant to be alone. He wants us to maintain a crew integrity by first having a relationship with God through Christ and filled with the Holy Spirit. Go and fulfill your role in God's incident action plan by being a part of the body of Christ. It is very paramount, even as we learn today, courtesy of Jeff Halley, of how to be having a lot of integrity in the fire ground. Because without integrity, what happens, you tend to be alone, yeah, and you tend to make decisions without consulting. And that can really cause a big trouble on the fire ground. So without further ado, I would welcome Jeff Halley to take us through. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you, Jose, very much. Today's training, everyone, we will be covering, this is actually a really good lead-in because it's one of those things that we're covering different parts of the body and how they fit into the fire service as a whole. I will be sharing my screen here, and I would like this presentation to be interactive, right? If you guys have a question, right, the chances are somebody has the exact same question as well, right? So please raise your hand or please interrupt me. Talk to Jose, and through the chat message, they should be able to see you guys. And I may be able to see you, but certainly interrupt and ask the question because I want to answer the question so that we're all on the same page. You'll have to bear with me a little bit. I have a little bit of a cold. So if I cough, I don't have COVID. I have a little bit of a sinus infection. So bear with me. We will get through this. Today we'll be covering fireground operations, specifically the scene size up and the initial attack. Okay. Is everyone seeing this screen that moved on to the objectives? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So in this course, we will cover just an introduction about me, about this course, and about Africa Fire Mission and my role, which you guys have already really covered, so that will be quick. And then we'll move into scene size up, and we'll cover a little bit of initial attack. This isn't meant to say our strategies or our tactics in America are always right, and your guys are always wrong, or your guys always need improvement. It's not like that at all. Instead, it's meant to say every fire service is a little bit different, right? But these are things that correlate to all of us. And although they might be slightly different here, slightly different in Zambia, slightly different in Kenya, right? These are all important parts that are going to define the success of us being able to accomplish our mission. So introduction, Africa Fire Mission, I was very fortunate to attend to Kenya 2 years ago. While in Kenya, I helped teach the tactical portion, and it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience for me, in which time I learned an absolute ton from you guys. And that made a huge difference for me. I'm born again, I'm married, I have 2 boys. They're sleeping upstairs right now, so it's 7 a.m. my time. So they're asleep and they will wake up very soon and they'll be very loud. So you guys will have to bear with me while I also kind of quiet them down maybe. But I am married, and I was very fortunate in the fire service. I've been a part of very small organizations. So very, very small 20-person departments, that's the entire department. And then I've been I'm part of one of the top 20 largest organizations, South Metro Fire Rescue. We're one of the top 20 in the United States. So very large organizations to very small organizations. I've been part of the U.S. Forest Service and have been kind of trained in the wildland fighting, fighting of trees, grasses, fires, and then as well as urban city departments. I have my master's degree in organizational leadership. I don't have it yet. I actually finished this March. So I will be done with that. And that's my training and my experience. I look forward to volunteering with Africa Fire Mission today. I look forward to learning from you guys, from having tea again, and being encouraged as a firefighter. This is an amazing experience for me to be able to share what I've learned and to share what you guys have learned and to learn from you. And I look forward to exploring this topic with you guys. This is really relevant because I have a big promotional test coming up, and this is one of the things the test is on. So it is certainly one of those things we'd like to cover. The first 5 minutes. So the first 5 minutes have often been cited. If you look at multiple websites, if you talk to people of large departments, the first 5 minutes really define what's going to happen next, right? And that starts from sizing up that scene and saying, what exactly is the problem, right? What is the extent of the problem and what can I do to fix it? So really the first 5 minutes define what we have moving forward. Are we actually going to accomplish our mission, and are we on track to succeed, or are we on track the other way? Is this incident going to get worse? And both of those are just important that we recognize, right? Recognition of the actual problem is probably the vast majority of the problem that we face, right? If I can measure the extent of the problem, then I can measure the amount of things that I need to fix in order to achieve success or to solve that problem. So really that's accomplished by sizing up the scene and then choosing the right tactic the first time. Our ultimate goal is to not add to the problem, right? If I go in and I'm trying to solve a problem, so I run inside with a fire hose trying to solve it, and I fall through the floor into the basement, well, now I've just added to the problem. I'm not making the thing better, right? I'm not changing anything other than adding, now there's one more person stuck in here that the rest of the team has to fix. So really our ultimate goal, doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, and we by and large do somewhat of the same thing, and that is try to do no harm. I'm not going to try to make the problem worse. Instead, they're calling me because there is a problem and I need to make that problem better. So we want to not add to the problem, and the way we don't add to the problem is not putting ourselves at risk unnecessarily. So the first 5 minutes, before we go into this, guys, I want to say you might notice pictures from this slideshow, and they might be very relevant to you. These are all pictures that have taken place in Nairobi or Mombasa County or Nigeria. There's a few from Zambia. This isn't meant to stir up harsh feelings in anyone. This isn't meant to hurt anyone if you've been on this call, and we're certainly not judging tactics. But it's one of those things that I want to make it relevant for you guys, and seeing actual buildings in your community is a huge difference, right? That can make a huge difference in how you actually view the problem and how you view this training moving forward. So if I show you a bunch of pictures from Colorado, USA, I don't think that's going to be extremely relevant. But these pictures aren't meant to judge harshly, critically, or to stir up any negative emotions inside of anyone. So the first 5 minutes, going back, what it ultimately boils down to is this. I think this might be my most important slide. Incident priorities. If your fire organization does not have a set of incident priorities, I strongly encourage you to change it and make it so. At South Metro Fire, these are 2 direct policies that we have. Our incident priorities never change. Our goal is always to protect life safety and property conservation through a fire service that is best prepared to respond in an all hazards response model. We want to be the best in class department who's able to solve the emergency in a timely, professional, and caring manner. So really, these priorities do not change. The most important thing is human life. Human life comes much above property conservation. And we want to see that incident get better and better and better through stabilization, as opposed to that incident getting worse and possibly endangering more lives or more property. The risk going hand in hand with that then is our risk management philosophy. We risk a lot to save a lot, meaning if there is a life on the inside and we stand a chance of saving that life, then we will risk a lot. And that's including ourselves, our own lives, in an effort to try to save another life, right? We will risk a little to save a little. We'll absolutely go inside and fight fire aggressively if that's what's called to do in an effort to try to save property. But ultimately, if that building is gone and if that building is going to be torn down and that building is already involved in fire to the extent that we cannot save property, then we will risk nothing to save nothing, right? We will stand outside the building. We will not go inside. We will be a defensive operation, and we'll fight that fire from the outside because there's nothing we can do that will save that actual property. So if you guys don't have these policies in place, I highly encourage you to ask me more, right? Or to explore these options and write a policy for your department saying this is our incident priorities and this is our risk management philosophy. So the first 5 minutes, how important are the first 5 minutes? Well, Don Abbott in 2016, and all of these links are tied to you guys. So this presentation will be distributed. You guys can look up all of this information for yourselves. But Don Abbott in 2016 did the study of all the firefighter close calls in America for the previous 20 years. And in the previous 20 years, he's compiled all the things that get firefighters into trouble, in which we call them Mayday. And in the US, we call them Mayday if the firefighter is now in danger or in jeopardy or needs to be transported to the hospital, like an injury, or they're lost, or they're having a close call event, like something could lead to death. And during these Maydays, the firefighter is then adding to the problem, right? Because all firefighting operations basically stop, and all efforts are then given to try to save the firefighter because it's a life that's directly in danger, right? But if you look at what's causing all of these maydays and what's happening here, 54% of all maydays were the first arriving crew. 24% were the second crew. That means 80% of the time, the person who is adding to the problem, the person who is nearly dying or is getting into that close call bad situation is one of the first 8 people on scene, right? The first 5 minutes are huge. They're going to define whether or not I, the first arriving crew, am going to be able to fight this fire effectively, or if I'm going to get in trouble and I'm going to be nearly dying or giving up my life, right? So if we can just approach this and say the first 5 minutes, right, need to be a well-oiled machine in which we have a thought-out process that we are tackling critical factors, the most important things first, then that's how I avoid getting into trouble myself and adding to the problem. One of the things that Don Abbott highlights is the importance of a 360. We have a policy that the first arriving officer walks all the way around the building, if possible, in an effort to try to see that building. And this is huge because 73% of all the maydays that were called, a 360 was not complete. And 40%, as you can see on the screen, of all the 360s that that officer does, then reports that the fire is actually in a different location than it was previously reported. So that's immensely important because that can change your tactic entirely. If you were halfway around that building, if you made it all the way around that building and you said, this is a better way in, this is going to be more safe for our people to come in from this direction. We have people hanging out the back, and this is the most important thing, that we save the people instead of put the fire out. So all of these things can be immensely important, but just for that first 5 minutes, probably one of the most essential things is that 360, determining the right tactic the first time and getting that tactic into service. This last one I think is very, very important and very relevant. 34% of officers knew that their firefighter on their crew had a significant deficiency, meaning like this person is not trained well, right? And the same thing I'm sure can be said about crew saying the same thing about their officer or about their engineer. And that's what we're talking about today is every single person who's on the fireground has a specific role in that first 5 minutes. And that starts by everyone being able to look at the building very first thing and say, what does this emergency mean to me in my job? The first 5. What is our average response? My response time might look a lot different than you guys, right? I come from a full-time professional department in which we are on call 24 hours a day, right? We are at the firehouse for 48 hours in a row, and then we go home for 96 hours and 2 more shifts come in to work for us. Our average response time, we have to be out of the bay within a minute and a half, 90 seconds. We have to be out of the bay within a minute and a half. So we're out the door in 90 seconds after the call comes in and goes through our dispatch center. So that always takes a minute or 2 to go through the dispatch center for them to find out, do we need a fire truck? Do we need an ambulance? Do we need police to respond to the scene prior to us getting there, right? And then we respond, and our average response time breaks down to about 5 minutes. We're a close department. We have 30 stations, right, in which we're responding. That might look a lot different. It looked a lot different at the smaller department I was at before this, right? It was a volunteer department. We only had 5 people on staff, and those 5 people were broken up throughout the week. So you could only get 2 people on your truck, and it could be a 20-minute response time, right? And this is just an average response. We still have times where it's 12, 14, 16 minutes out. Why is that relevant? Well, that scene when we get there might look a lot different. What started off as a small fire has now had 14 minutes of time to grow. That fire has had at least 10 minutes to hit those joists, the building construction that's holding up that roof or the ceiling or the floors above it, right? And those joists usually fail within 10 minutes of fire impingement. Concrete structures have had significant time to burn on the inside of the structure, and you might not see that fire even after 10 to 15 minutes of it burning. However, that's had time to heat those joists. It can push on the concrete walls, and it can actually push away the concrete walls and cause that ceiling collapse. One of the highest rates of death is actually for firefighters and for civilians is inside of concrete structures. And although they don't burn, right, but the survivability rating on the inside of them still has high heat. All of that heat is transferred within that building. And then all of that heat also causes high risk of collapse. So knowing your building construction, and really this is when I did building construction, it was a 3-week course. We did a 3-week course in building construction and how it relates. Now I'm trying to convey it to you guys in 1 minute or 2 minutes of how it relates to our scene size up, right? There's a ton of information. And although we could cover this for the next hour itself, right? Just knowing that this is something you need to explore or something you need to be a professional at could define your success moving forward, right? We talked about risk a lot to save a lot. What does it look like for the person who's within that fire? Well, at 350 degrees, which a lot of our fires are burning at well over 1,000 degrees now. At 350 degrees, the human body cannot survive, and they will all pass within 3 minutes. And that's a really low amount of time, because really we already covered, we're not on scene for 7 or 8 minutes. And that person's already been dead then for 5 minutes at just a temperature of 350 degrees, right? The time is much less if we're talking about inhalation. Some pictures to illustrate this. On the left, we're doing a campaign in the United States right now, and it's called Keep Your Door Closed. Close your door. Before you go to sleep at night, close your door. And here you can see there was a huge fire outside of the structure, or outside of this person's room. So this looks like a kitchen or a living room, and this person had the door shut to their bedroom. And just the door shut in their bedroom, you can see they woke up and they see this on the outside. It can actually reduce the amount of inhalation gases and the temperature by 90% by just having a closed door. And that's huge, right? If we look at this type 5 construction stability graph, right? Type 5 construction for us is lightweight construction. It's built with lightweight timber or wood. It could be like a concrete wall or a partition, maybe a couple firewalls or load-bearing walls. But the vast majority of it is combustible material. Within stability, this lays out everything. Our average response time in the United States, our average setup and fire attack, and really we're not actually causing that benefit, and that actual fire flow is going down, and the extinguishment is the primary thing until about 12 minutes. So realistically, this person has already determined their success of being saved or dying within that fire on whether or not they have their door closed, or us as the firefighters, as we're walking up to the building and there's people hanging outside of their balconies, can we say, close your door, separate yourself, isolate yourself from that fire, from the gases, from the hot smoke, and then we will save you and bring you down. But the number one thing they can do is actually shut the door and not let that fire progress into the room that they're in, right? Close your door. So it's an interesting thing. That's one of the things I'd encourage you guys to go to that link afterward and really explore what work they're doing. So all positions have these things in common as far as a scene size up. Occupancy, what is the size of this building? We use the size of the building to determine the amount of hose that we're going to need. And we classify our buildings as size small, medium, or large. We do that small, medium, or large to determine, can we reach this with a 200-foot, 60 meters? Can we do this with a 90-meter hose line, which is our standard hose line in the United States for us to reach from our truck to any part of that building or any part of that house? That's going to be a small house. Is it a medium? We're going to need to extend that hose, or is it going to be a large or even mega size, right? Shopping mall, in which we're going to need vast amounts of hose, probably thick diameter size hose, so that we can take a lot of water with us in order to extinguish the fire. What is the height? This not only determines the probability of collapse, but also how big that collapse could be should this building come down or should it collapse. Every type of the structure is different. Is it a multifamily in which tons of people are living inside of this, in which we could think about that we have to evacuate 40 or 50 people? Or is it better for us to leave these 40 or 50 people inside of their rooms, shut all the doors, and try to protect them in their rooms, stop the fire, and the fire gets better for everyone. If we stop the fire, then no one even has to leave their rooms. Is it a single family in which, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 people might be living inside of a small house, right? But those people might not be there for one reason. But moving forward, right, what is the construction of those buildings? What are the complications that are involved with our construction or our occupancy? Fire extent, size, and location. Every person on the fire ground should be sizing up and saying, what is the extent of this? And how does this relate to me, right? What is the extent and how can I best control this scene? And it could be that I need to control that fire extent, size, and location. Is it buried deep in the walls, inside the ceiling or attic in which I cannot see, in which this fire is going to spread rapidly? And then life safety concerns. Is it currently inhabited, right? Is this a vacant piece of property? Is this an abandoned structure, right? Is the most important thing here this, or is it the building next to it, which if it catches fire, it has 40 children's, or a hospital in which we cannot get the people out. It could be exposures as your number one concern. So really, how do we tackle this all position scene size up? We tackle this by seeing our critical factors. We focus on what's most important, right? And that's defining. I use these critical factors, so 8 standard critical factors, and you can apply these basically to any kind of situation. So here, we respond on medical calls, we respond on fire calls, we respond on hazardous materials, airplane crashes, everything. So we have a little bit of everything in our jurisdiction. And so the critical factors might be different for every single call. And this is important because if you can analyze what is actually important on this of these 8, then you know what to do next. The most important thing might be scene control. I'm on scene of a motor vehicle accident. And if I do not shut down the road, then my crew, right, or my patients stand a high risk of getting hit from a secondary motor vehicle accident. And that could be the most dangerous thing, right? So I need to control scene control as opposed to anything else. And so these critical factors may change for anything, right? For every one of your scenes. So this might be one of those things for training within your own department or for yourself. This might be one of the things you look through pictures and you practice identifying the critical factors. What is the most important thing of this incident? So that's actually what we're gonna do moving forward. We've covered occupancy. Arrangement would be like the very difficult to access. Is it going to be very hard for us to get in our truck to the appropriate location? Is it going to be arrangement is our number one critical factor because our line, our first hose line, our first branch is going to be very difficult to lay out in order to get to the actual seat of the fire or to make this incident better, right? Is life safety our number one concern? Is the actual fire our number one life safety concern, right? And how we address these critical factors might be different as well. The most important thing is that I protect the life, right, on the inside. And like we already talked about, it might be most important that I actually separate them, I close all the doors, and then I fight the fire, right? So that I can account for life safety and better protect life safety, right? Maybe this fire is too big and we need to call in lots of resources, extra water, extra firefighters. What is going to be the number one restricting critical factor that I need to tackle? So the firefighter size-up, we're actually going to listen over the next several slides to Lucas Wachter, who is a fantastic firefighter from Germany. And he's going to take us through what he looks at. But basically, we put it into this acronym on the left, and it's, if you notice it, is lethal, L-E-T-H-A-L. And the point of that is to remind you that everything on this fire is trying to kill you. Everything is lethal. Everything is trying to kill you. And you must be just as lethal. You might just have to be just as aggressive back in an effort to try to fight that fire. So that most important thing may be that firefighter, as soon as they step outside of the truck, they might look at that building and they might say, okay, what is the life safety profile? Are we going to be offensive or defensive? Are we going inside of this building in an effort to try to make things better? Are we staying outside? Are we trying to fight this fire defensively? What sort of entry or egress problems are we going to face? And that might determine kind of tools you're going to bring to overcome a problem. So meaning, do I need to bring special tools to break down the door so that I can enter, right? And do forcible entry. Do I need to bring chainsaws so we could get the hot gases out of the roof? Do I need to bring special tools like fire extinguishers, right? Can I tackle this fire or buy people more time by using a fire extinguisher and cooling the area, or sort of resetting the fire until we can get a hose line in there? And what size hose do I need to bring, right? Is that fire extensive to the point where I need a bigger hose line with more water, a different diameter size hose line? Or can I do this with a thin hose line, which delivers a small amount of water, but will be easier to move the hose line? Where are my areas of refuge where I can move people in as their protected stairwells, so that as I evacuate people, they can all go down one stairwell, which we know is well protected, does not have hot gases inside of it? And can we designate a different stairwell to say, okay, firefighters are going to attack from this stairwell, right? Are we going to have hose lines going in? And then as we have hose lines going in, then people can't pass that in order to evacuate. And then ladders, power lines, and do we need to secure the utilities? Is this a gas line that's been cut? Now the gas line is on fire. That's not going to get better unless we turn off the feed to that gas line. So we need to pay attention to our utilities. Can we throw ladders effectively? Can we get ladders into position in an effort to save people without causing undue danger to ourselves? So we're going to go through a building. And as we go through that building, we're going to pretend like there's a fire in there. I've drawn little pictures of a fire, and Lucas is going to take us through what he thinks as he encounters a fire. So for this, we're in Nairobi, Kenya. We're called to a kitchen fire in an apartment building. There's unknown evacuation, and there's unknown further information. Sounds like we're starting off on the right page, right?
Pearl Peak Apartments. We've recently been there for training. A large building with a lot of apartments and difficult entry area for the trucks. To park, 4-story apartment with the identically constructed stairwells on both sides. As far as I remember, there is a pre-plan we set up the last time.
So Lucas is already on his way to this call, right? They get called out to this kitchen fire, and he's riding inside the truck. It's in the very building, or the very center of this picture. It's this long tubular structure with a pool at the end of it. So apartment buildings, he's already talked about. He's been here before, and this could be immensely important because he already has a preconceived notion, or the crew has already planned. This is kind of our plan A. This is what we're planning to do should we encounter a fire here at this building.
Whilst driving to the scene, I make sure to wear my PPE correct and check my mask. I'll check my air supply and catch a quick look at my brothers if their PPE is worn by the book. Less traffic because of the early morning could mean most of the people are at home in their apartments, which we got used to in the last months of the COVID pandemic. Eventually, we will have to evacuate a bunch of people.
You can see we're progressing on the A104. We've turned off on the St. Michael Road here.
Heavy smoke is showing. I remember the power lines around the corner being a problem for our truck the last time we've been here. Working fire appears to be in the upper story. The fire shown tells me about the immense heat we'll have to expect, hopefully.
Oops, sorry.
The fire shown tells me about the immense heat we'll have to expect. Hopefully the owner of the apartment got already out. Many cars on the parking lots. We will have to evacuate many people and need a big ladders to entry the balconies. We'll need a lot of water and hose length to knock it down. Our apparatus will park in front of the entry to leave space for the ladders, so we'll need even more hose.
So you can see Lucas has sized up this fire, and this is the firefighter's perspective, right? What is he going to accomplish, and what is his specific job in this fire, all right? And that might look different for the firefighter on the back right versus the firefighter on the back left. They might have individual jobs or previously determined assignments that they typically do, in which their size-up factors might be a little bit different. But Lucas has highlighted in this, one of the critical factors is most of all life safety. There is a ton of people probably inside of this building, especially this time of day with all of those cars out front. And how will he tackle this, right? He will tackle this looking at it and saying, all right, these are my difficulties, and this is how I will overcome. These are my critical factors, and these are the things that I'm sizing up as a firefighter to keep myself safe in an effort to try to make the problem better for everyone else. But this might be different, very, very different for an engineer, for an operator. So for that driver operator, maybe he's from Kenyatta University, maybe he's a new driver operator, maybe he's a 20-year driver operator who's been driving the same truck the entire time. Those critical factors might look a little bit different for that engineer. And what that is they might be looking at driving concerns, right? They need to get their crew safely to the incident so that they can actually operate. Unless he accounts for traffic concerns and unless he solves the problems first, then the crew will never even arrive on scene. And they might have added to the problem before they were even at the accident or at the emergency. So first and foremost, that driver operator needs to be thinking about traffic, needs to be thinking, how can I best position the apparatus, both to protect my crew and establish a shadow area for my crew to work in so that they are protected by the parking of the truck, as well as how can I best position the apparatus to provide us access to the structure, right? Can I park as close as possible so that we can stretch branches and hose lines to our objective, while maybe leaving room for the ladder to get there. If we do a ladder truck and it's going to put up that aerial or that ladder to our scene, do we need the ladder, right? Do we need to save people from ladders on our truck? Can we access our equipment? How much water am I going to need to be flowing from our hose line or from our turret? And how am I going to account for that water flow of getting more water, right? Are we going to be able to tackle this with just the water we brought on our truck? Or is there a way I can hook up to a hydrant nearby? Do I need to call in other units of water? Can I talk to the homeowners and see if they have water on site? Can I talk to community members and see if there is a local water supply? Can I suck water out of the pool and put it on the fire so that I save someone's life or someone's property, and then later they can account for getting more water into their pool? So we need to be thinking about the water flow that's going to be required in an effort to put that fire out. And then pump panel operations, they need to think about, how do I best deliver water to the people who are on the hose lines to protect our citizens and to protect our firefighters? And then ventilation. Is there a way that our engineers can account for ventilation? Airflow is immensely important. Any of the new studies of firefighting nowadays is all showing that ventilation might be one of the most important things. If we can restrict the amount of airflow to the building, we already talked about closing that door. So as my crew goes in and that hose line goes in that door, can I close the door mostly behind them and allow no more air to enter? And that might restrict the air enough so that that fire actually goes out. So as the engineer tackles this, the engineer might be looking and saying, okay, I have the same kitchen fire in the same building. I don't know about evacuation. I don't know any further information, but I know this route. I know I have to take this early turn. If I miss this early turn, I can't even access this building. And it's best if we come up from that south side. So I'm going to take this early turn and I'm going to make sure I get on St. Michael Street, right? So that I can best get to this area, because I'm an engineer and I know my first due area. I'm progressing down the A104 and I'm making sure everybody is wearing seatbelts inside of my rig, because that kills more firefighters every year than fire does, right? I'm making sure everyone wears seatbelts. I'm making sure that I'm driving in a safe manner to get us to the objective in a timely, organized fashion. I'm lucky today, there's very little traffic and they're actually obeying, pulling over so that I can get around them. Now, as I approach the scene, I'm looking and I see those power lines first thing. I know I can make it under there because I've actually been here before. I know the exact height of my truck, right? I know I can get under those power lines. And it looks like I have extensive fire conditions in that bottom right picture. You can see that smoke coming up from that building that I drew on there with a marker. But you can look and see, okay, I have extensive smoke showing. I know I'm probably going to be flowing, which means that's probably a lot of fire if that's causing that much smoke. And I'm going to need a lot of water to put this out. I know there's a pool at the end of this driveway, and I know I can make this turn. I know this gate opens up and there's security guards probably waiting here for me to help me get into the area, right? And there's building managers who are on site. They actually live here. And that building manager, we can talk to him about getting the water supply, right? Or tapping in and getting additional water for our truck. So I can talk to the building manager, and I know my officer is going to be very busy on this. I know my firefighters are going to be very busy. So as soon as I get that pump panel in operation, I can start working on a water supply, right? I know we have a ladder coming, and this looks like it will be a ladder fire. We need to go to the roof. We need to see if there's hazards up on top of the roof. We might be doing multiple rescues in which I need to help get tools and equipment off of my truck and to where they need to be so that we can save lives and property. And then I need to make sure that I am very much professional and know how to run my pump panel to deliver them the right pressure, and they can deliver water to the fire, because ultimately, if we get water on this fire from the outside and then we go in and finish off the rest of the fire from the inside, we might not have to evacuate all of these people. So you guys see the engineer's perspective is a little bit different than the firefighters, right? They're accounting for different things. And just like the body of Christ, they're all doing different things in an effort to best serve the body. So although they're different body parts, right, we're all serving that same mission. We all might have different critical objectives. That officer is the same. So that officer is looking at different factors, right? And they must talk on the radio and provide oversight for their crew in an effort to best accomplish their objective. So what that means is when they initially arrive, we need to take command of that incident and begin that incident stabilization. So this is best done, in my opinion, over the radio. This does that over the radio, and you can determine all of these critical factors while making it known to everyone else who's on scene, your firefighters, your driver operator, what your initial plan is for attacking that fire, as well as letting anyone else who's responding in or may respond in that this was your initial objective, this was your initial critical factors, and this is what you're doing to fix it. So that might look something for this last one, like if I were to arrive, you know, engine 1 is on scene of a large 4-story apartment building. We have extensive fire conditions. This will be a working fire on the alpha side in the alpha delta corner. We label our buildings in an effort so that everyone coming in can see what I saw initially. We have extensive fire conditions, 4th floor, alpha delta corner on the alpha side. That labeled my fire extent, size, and location. We already covered size, height, occupancy type would be that multifamily. My initial action plan. For this, engine 1 will be deploying an engine 3/4 hand line or a 2.5-inch hose line to the alpha side for fire attack, transitional attack. We'll be going offensive strategy, and engine 1 will be, I don't even want to try to say that name. Typically you do a street name for command. We'll call this Nairobi command because you guys don't want to hear my terrible Kenyan pronunciation. So it'll be Nairobi command, right? I name that command so that everybody coming into that scene can know I am in command of this incident. Right? I have labeled the critical factors as the fire extent, size, and location, and the life occupancy type of this. Another one is going to be water supply. How am I going to account for water supply? Because I am going to need more water than the 1,200 liters that I brought with me on this truck. So this will need probably more than 1,000 liters. I need to start accounting for how do I get additional water to this scene. So all of these things are critical factors, and then moving forward, we already talked about my initial plan in order to make that happen. A 360, I might not be able to do a 360 this building. It is too large. I would waste too much time by accomplishing that 360. So I might come back on the radio report, and do my follow-up report. My 360 is unable to complete due to size. This building does not have a basement. Whether or not it has a basement should be a critical factor for us, how we're going to attack this fire. Do we stand a risk of that fire being below us and burning through and burning us all up or putting us in danger? So does it have a basement? Yes or no? This building does not have a basement. We will be operating off of tank water, and there's no other changes to the initial action plan that I've already stated. So that's my initial radio report. And although it takes a little bit of time with you guys, that might look very quick to me on scene. You know, Engine 1 is on scene of a large 4-story multifamily residential structure. We have a working fire, alpha side, alpha delta corner. We'll be stretching a 2.5 inch for a transitional attack. From the outside going in will be offensive strategy. Engine 1 will be Nairobi command. So really a 10 or a 20-second delivery of that on-scene report. Just let my firefighter know what I'm going to do, and let the engineer know that our primary goal is to get water on this fire. And from the outside going in, because if we go upstairs and go directly into this building, right, we stand a much higher risk of burning us and endangering our lives and putting ourselves at risk, while wasting time not getting water on the fire and actually endangering further lives and property on crew or on site. Then I need to get to work. I need to provide oversight for my crew and safety. And as the officer, I need to be a working boss. I need to be with them, providing oversight, helping them get that hose line to that initial objective. Once that hose line is in that initial objective, we can move on and accomplish other critical factors. Maintain command. For us, we maintain command until a higher ranking individual, preferably a chief, gets on scene and takes command from us. And that might be 2 more units, 3 more units, 5 more units arrive on scene and ask for jobs. And as they come, right, I might assign those jobs. I need help getting this hose line into place. I need you to account for life safety. I need you to go start knocking on doors, doing primary search of surrounding units. Because although any life that's inside of this building has definitely been lost, that is too much fire, and that is not a survivable condition for anyone who's inside of that apartment. The apartments around it, below it, beside it, above it, all stand very high risk of being in danger of this fire. And we need to account for their life safety. And that might be just going and knocking on their doors. It might be searching. It might be carrying people out who can't get out on their own. Right? But as those units come in, command is responsible for assigning those units to account for all of their critical factors until those critical factors are done, right? And until that, as those critical factors progress, right, that those might change as the incident progresses. So if we put the fire out, fire extent, size, and location is no longer a critical factor for this job, right? If we got people out of the structure, life safety is only life safety of firefighters. So that might be something, critical factors definitely change as the incident progresses, and it's something we want to keep an eye on. So let's do another one for that firefighter officer, right, who's going to be taking this. This is in Lusaka, Zambia. They're getting called to an improvised settlement. The fire is quickly spreading. There's wind. So you can see that wind, and that has probably caused that fire to be quickly spreading. And whoever's talked to them on the phone advised them to start evacuating all of the surrounding structures. So we might have that going for us, right? People might listen to several community members, and they might be aiding us in evacuation. He gets on scene. It's a little bit harder. Google Maps doesn't navigate as well in the streets of Lusaka, Zambia as they do Nairobi. But you can see we've arrived on scene, and this is the aerial view of what it looks like in this improvised settlement. So that fire officer arrives on scene, and the critical factors for this look very different than the multifamily we looked at 2 times ago, right? This one might be more construction-based. Our occupancy type and access and arrangement might be our critical factor. How are we going to get our truck into here, right? How are we going to get a branch or a hose line into this area so that we can best fight this fire? That might be our #1 critical factor, and it might be our #1 thing that we're trying to hit, right? Evacuation, life safety might be our #1 critical factor, in which we're sending firefighters down different rows, and we're just getting people out. Because ultimately, if we lose this property, right? But we save lives. Is that not more important? Is the community going to look at us and say, their actions when they first arrived on scene were to save people? And that was their sole priority, because yes, some property burned. Yes, and some people lost their possessions, but no one lost their life, right? And that is immensely important for us as firefighters, as officers, as engineers. It's immensely important for us to be able to articulate that to our community members, to show them this is an effort of what we are doing. This is what we're trying to do to save lives. So my size up on this, and I would highly encourage all of you officers or all of you firefighters out there, engineers, to be sizing up this fire and saying, what would this look like for me? What is my firefighter size up? What is my engineer size up? And for me as the officer, my size up, engine 1 is on scene of a large fire taking place in an improvised settlement community. We have extensive fire conditions that is rapidly spreading from, which way was the wind going? North, northeast. So it is rapidly spreading to the southwest. We will be in the offensive strategy, doing evacuation of the surrounding structures, and then it might be looking for best ways in. So we're doing recon. We'll be operating off of tank water, and I will be Lusaka command, right? So I've taken command of the incident. I've sized up that fire extent, size, and location. I need to find access and arrangement and how I can get water to this fire, right? And that might be for the next unit in. It might be me scouting that area so that then my crew can then deliver water through that branch or hose line, and we can stop this incident from progressing any further. So this looks different for everyone, right? But it might be one of those things driving around your community. You guys are performing multiple size ups and saying, how can I best tackle an incident should it take place in that building right there, right? And then you're looking through that building. You guys are walking that building. You guys are drawing pictures of those buildings, and you're keeping them on record for high risk buildings in your area, a pre-plan like Lucas said. This might be one of those things. I don't want to have fought this fire in my mind for the first time ever when I see this fire. I want to have thought this fire through and fought this fire 10, 20, 30 times in my mind before I ever got to this incident. So that way I can easily determine what my critical factors are, and then I can tackle them in a clear, organized, and concise fashion. So ultimately what it boils down to is then my critical factors, determine my initial attack. The first 5 minutes determine everything, right? Risk management is key. Am I going to add to this problem, right? By putting us at risk and us adding to the problem, in which then all we can think about is saving our brothers, right? Or is this something that we say, okay, risk management, we're gonna watch out for this, and moving forward, we're going to manage our risk for ourselves and then provide for our community life safety, right? These 4 units in this improvised settlement are already done. They're already burned, right? But can we establish a fire break? Can we dig out that area and stop the fire before it progresses to 100 units, right? Can we stop it at these 4? You have to overcome challenges in order to make things better. That's your job, right? That's every single person's job, and everybody's challenges are going to look a little bit different. So use the 8 critical factors, know them, right? And then tackle them in an order that makes sense to best provide for your life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation. Your first efforts may be only to get that hose line in the correct location the fastest way possible. That fire goes out, the situation gets better for literally everyone on scene, right? But ultimately, the only thing it boils down to is this last line, is that public perception is everything. You have to be able to defend your actions, right? You as a firefighter are then showing the public, you're telling the public exactly what you did in an effort to try to make things better for them, right? And if you can't articulate that to us as other fellow firefighters, how are you supposed to articulate that to a community member? So you're going, and as you progress through that fire and that fire goes out, right? That should be something, that interaction with the community is essential. Hi, I'm Jeff, I'm the officer on scene, I'm the one who determined what we did, and these are the actions that we did, and this is why we did it, right? We made an effort to save your baby inside of your house, and because we saved your baby, right, we weren't able to get a hose line in place as fast as possible to save your property. And ultimately, we don't care about saving your house. We cared about saving your child. So those are the actions that we took, and here's why, right? And it might be having that's a tough conversation to have, right? That could be an immensely difficult conversation. But ultimately, if you know your critical factors and you tackled those in an organized fashion, right? Then you did such a good job. I cry at your amazingness. You did a wonderful job. So that's my presentation for you guys. Thank you very much for listening. Here's my references. I highly recommend you guys go to these links and explore these. They go through a lot more of those commercial construction. They go through that individual survivability profiling, and you guys can do these. Every one of these could be an entire class. Every slide on this presentation could be a class completely in and of itself, right? But as you guys have this presentation, you can go through, you can do size ups for every single one of these, just like I did, and tackle these things moving forward. So moving forward, I'm happy to answer your questions, participate in tea time with you guys, and take questions.
Thank you, Jeff, so much for your expertise. Thank you to Jeff and to all of you for participating in today's training. We will be posting the recording online soon for future reference. We would ask that you complete our online evaluation so that we continue to improve our trainings. Next week training will be proper donning and doffing of the PPE. You will be able to use the same link to log on to the training next week if you are able to attend. Please invite other firefighters to register and attend our trainings. Thank you, and remember, a better fire service starts with you. So Jeff is up for questions from any of you, and you are, feel free to stay for tea time with Jose and Jeff. Thank you so much.